How's it going, guys? Luis here, and virtual reality is quickly starting to pick up steam in the video game market. We already have the Oculus Rift and the HTC Vive, and later in October we'll be getting the PlayStation VR. Now, I've gotten the chance to play a lot of PlayStation VR over the years at both E3 and PlayStation Experience, and I've played a lot of different games for the system, both games that are coming out this year and games coming out at a later date. So I want to share the games I'm really excited to play on PlayStation VR, games that are both coming out this year and games coming out at a much later date. So in no particular order, here are the 5 games I'm most excited to play on PlayStation VR. At number 5, we have Riggs Mechanized Combat League. I had the chance to play Riggs at PlayStation Experience 2015, and it was absolutely fantastic. The game is being developed by Guerrilla Cambridge, who made Killzone Mercenary on the Vita and Little Big Planet on the PSP. Riggs has you jump into a giant robot mech suit where you play a competitive sport of basketball team deathmatch. Sounds pretty weird, right? But it's actually really awesome. 2 teams compete to score basketball shots on the opposite ends of the battlefield, all while shooting down each other with their giant mech guns. Players use the PlayStation VR headset to look around the field and aim at their competitors, while using the DualShock 4 to move around and fire their weapon. If you want a game that you can spend hours playing with just your friends online, Riggs is one you have to try out. It's definitely one of the more casual, friendly games too. At number 4, we have Star Wars X-Wing Mission. Now this game is more like DLC than an actual fully fledged game. The newest trailer for the game shows that you'll be piloting an X-Wing with PSVR, so you'll get a fully immersive view from the ship's cockpit. Now since we haven't actually played too much of the game, we have to speculate on how the game controls, but it's assumed that it'll follow a PSVR headset / DualShock 4 scheme. For instance, players will most likely use the headset to control the camera view while they move around and fire their weapons with the DualShock 4 controller. Owners of Star Wars Battlefront will be able to pick up the mission for free as downloadable DLC, while it's still unknown whether you'll be able to download the X-Wing mission for VR if you don't already have Battlefront, but perhaps they'll add that option. At number 3, we have Batman Arkham VR. I got the chance to try out Batman Arkham VR at E3 earlier this year, and from my experience the game shows promise. In fact, it was more like a tech demo than an actual game. Now I don't have any footage to show you because Sony wasn't allowing us to record any gameplay, but I can describe the 2 sections of the demo that I got to play. The intro of the demo had us play as Bruce Wayne in his mansion. We were informed by Alfred of a crime that happened in downtown Gotham, so we then go down to the Batcave and dress into our Batman suit. For a few minutes you're able to try out your attack from the Arkham games like the Batarang for example. It's pretty simple stuff as I mentioned before, but it still feels cool to almost feel like you really are Batman. The next section of the demo has you investigating a crime scene, the one that was reported earlier by Alfred, and this includes a person that's pretty close to Batman, so the whole investigation scene is pretty emotional. However, in terms of the gameplay, you're not really, mimicking the third-person action scenes from Arkham Knight, but instead you're using your tech to investigate the crime scene and reverse engineer the events that led up to this particular situation. Like I said, the game felt more like a tech demo than a real game, but I think it shows potential for a really cool narrative-driven VR Batman game. Just don't expect to mimic the third-person action scenes from Arkham Knight or Arkham City in VR. This is definitely more of a narrative experience, almost like a Telltale game. At number 2, we have Summer Lesson. Summer Lesson is a VR game that premiered at Tokyo Game Show 2015. It's a VR game being developed by Tekken Team, but it's nowhere near a fighting game. This is actually more like an immersive visual novel. Now I've played a ton of VR games and most have had me take control of a spaceship or be a soldier in a war, but Summer Lesson is a much slower game. It's a different game. You play as a tutor teaching these 2 girls in 2 different settings Japanese, a blonde American girl that lives by the beach and a Japanese schoolgirl in a classroom. The gameplay is really simple. The girls will ask you questions or give you options, and you'll respond by either nodding yes or no, or looking at the option you want to choose. What doesn't really sell me on the immersion are the graphics or the elaborate controls, but instead it's the lifelike feeling AI characters that interact and speak to me as if we were in some sort of close relationship basis. To me, I hardly even know these girls. I mean, they're not even real humans, yet I interact with them as if they were, with my mind at times thinking that they actually were real life. Yeah, the technology may eventually just be used for dating simulators or some eroge game, but in the simple tech demo, it gets me excited to see the tech in the final version of the Summer Lesson, as well as in other future VR visual novels, which leads me to my next game. At number 1, we have Dingen Drama Vr. Like I mentioned before, Summer Lesson got me excited for the general idea of visual novels with VR, and Dingen Drama is the perfect example. Spike Software is currently working on a Cyber Dingen Drama VR game that's a VR game that recreates the trials from Dingen Drama 1 and 2 in a new immersive way. You play as the game's main character in the middle of the game trials, placing your evidence and fighting off accusations as you would in the original games. If you've never played the Dingen Drama games, it's essentially a visual novel that has you stuck in a high school fighting for your life. You're trying to solve the mystery of why you're there or who's taking control of everything going on, and at the end of every chapter you're put into a trial where you basically have to show evidence to show that you're not the person in charge, you're the one doing things in the background. And so if you mess up and you lose the trial, you end up getting executed. And so essentially now imagine all those executions and those trials in virtual reality. And so if you have played Dingen Drama before and you know what the executions are, then imagine those in VR, and those can be pretty badass and scary at times. And those are just 5 games I'm really excited to play on PlayStation VR. Let me know what you guys are excited for in the comment section below. I know that a lot of GameStops right now and Best Buys are doing PSVR demos at their locations, so you might want to go check it out. Maybe you can get a demo station for yourself. If you like my videos, consider dropping a like and possibly subscribing. It'll notify you whenever I release another video like this one. As always, thank you all very much for watching. I'm kinda glad to be back. Sorry about that whole week hiatus. I was at Anime Expo all week, which explains all the artwork in the background. But once again, thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.